Have you ever felt like the walls were closing in on you, trapped between the love of your life and the person who seems determined to tear you apart? Picture this: a beautiful wedding day, filled with laughter and joy, only to have it overshadowed by the looming presence of an overbearing mother-in-law. This is the story of my marriage to Sarah, and how her mother's constant interference nearly tore us apart. As I reflect on the tumultuous journey we've been on, I can't help but wonder if love is truly enough to conquer all, or if some ties are just too strong to break. When I first met Sarah, I was instantly captivated. She had a warmth that drew me in, a smile that lit up the room, and a sense of humor that made every moment spent together feel like an adventure. Our connection was undeniable, and it didn't take long for me to realize that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. We shared dreams of a future filled with love, laughter, and the kind of happiness that seemed almost too good to be true. However, there was one thing I hadn't anticipated: her mother, Linda. From the moment we got engaged, I could sense the tension building. Linda was a force of nature, a woman who had always been the center of Sarah's world. She was fiercely protective of her daughter, and while I admired her devotion, it soon became clear that her involvement in our lives would complicate things in ways I never imagined. The wedding planning was a whirlwind. Sarah and I were excited, but Linda seemed to take the reins, making decisions without consulting us. I remember one day, Sarah and I sat down to discuss our vision for the wedding, only to have Linda burst in, clipboard in hand, ready to present her meticulously crafted plan. I could see the frustration in Sarah's eyes as she struggled to assert herself, and I felt the weight of the situation pressing down on both of us. As the wedding day approached, I found myself feeling increasingly anxious. I loved Sarah deeply, but the thought of Linda's constant presence made me question whether I was truly ready for this commitment. I wanted to support my fiancée, but I also felt like I was losing my voice in the process. The tension reached a boiling point when Linda insisted on inviting her entire book club, turning our intimate ceremony into a crowded affair. I could see the conflict brewing in Sarah, torn between her desire to please her mother and her own vision for our special day. On the day of the wedding, I stood at the altar, my heart racing with anticipation. As I watched Sarah walk down the aisle, I felt a rush of love and pride. But as I glanced at Linda, sitting in the front row with a beaming smile, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger battle. After the wedding, the honeymoon phase was short-lived. We returned home to find ourselves navigating the complexities of married life, while still dealing with Linda's constant interference. She would call at all hours, offering unsolicited advice on everything from our finances to our household chores. At first, I tried to be patient, reminding myself that she meant well. But as the weeks turned into months, my frustration grew. I felt like a guest in my own home, and the love I once felt for Sarah began to wane under the weight of her mother's presence. The emotional conflict reached its peak when Sarah and I had our first major argument. It started over something trivial, a disagreement about the color of the living room walls, but quickly escalated into a full-blown fight. I couldn't help but bring up Linda's incessant meddling, and when I saw the hurt in Sarah's eyes, I knew I had crossed a line. I had unintentionally turned our struggle into a blame game, and the guilt washed over me like a tidal wave. In the days that followed, I found myself reflecting on our relationship. I loved Sarah, but I also felt suffocated by the dynamics of her family. I began to question if I was the problem, if I was being unreasonable in my desire for space and independence. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that I was losing sight of what truly mattered: my love for Sarah and the life we had envisioned together. Then came the unexpected twist that would change everything. One evening, as I sat alone in our living room, I received a text from Linda. She wanted to meet. My heart raced with a mix of dread and curiosity. What could she possibly want to discuss? I braced myself for the confrontation that I knew was coming. When we met, Linda surprised me. She was vulnerable, admitting that she had been struggling to let go of her role as the primary influence in Sarah's life. She shared stories of her own marriage, the challenges she faced, and the fear of losing her daughter to someone else. In that moment, I saw her not just as a mother-in-law, but as a woman who had dedicated her life to her family, grappling with the changes that marriage brought. As we talked, I began to understand the depth of her love for Sarah. I realized that Linda's intentions were rooted in a desire to protect her daughter, but her methods were suffocating. I found myself empathizing with her, recognizing that we were both on the same side, wanting what was best for Sarah. It was a turning point in my perspective, and I left that meeting feeling a renewed sense of hope. From that day forward, I made a conscious effort to communicate openly with both Sarah and Linda. I encouraged Sarah to express her needs and desires, reminding her that her happiness was paramount. I also reached out to Linda, establishing boundaries while acknowledging her role as a mother. It was a delicate dance, but I felt a sense of empowerment as I took charge of my own life. As time passed, I noticed a shift in our family dynamic. Sarah began to assert herself more, and I could see the relief on her face as she took control of her relationship with her mother. Linda, in turn, started to respect our boundaries, realizing that her daughter was capable of making her own decisions. It was a slow process, but with each step, I felt our love grow stronger. However, just when I thought we were making progress, life threw another curveball our way. Sarah received a job offer in another city, a fantastic opportunity that could advance her career. While I was thrilled for her, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. Would this mean another upheaval in our lives? Would we have to navigate the complexities of a long-distance relationship? As Sarah weighed her options, I found myself grappling with conflicting emotions. I wanted her to pursue her dreams, but I also feared the impact it would have on our marriage. I felt the familiar weight of insecurity creeping in, and I couldn't help but wonder if we were truly ready for this next step. In the days leading up to her decision, I found myself reflecting on our journey together. I thought about the struggles we had faced, the battles we had fought, and the love that had ultimately triumphed. I realized that our relationship had grown stronger through adversity, and I had faith that we could weather any storm together. When Sarah finally made her decision, I was filled with a mix of pride and anxiety. She chose to accept the job offer, and while I supported her wholeheartedly, the thought of being apart was daunting. We talked late into the night, discussing our fears and hopes for the future. I promised her that I would support her, no matter where life took us. As she prepared to move, I felt a sense of loss wash over me. I was excited for her new adventure, but I couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty. Would we be able to maintain our connection? Would the distance create a rift that we couldn't bridge? As Sarah left for her new job, I felt a void in my heart. The silence of our home echoed in my ears, a stark reminder of the love that had once filled every corner. I threw myself into my work, trying to distract myself from the ache of her absence. But as the days turned into weeks, I found myself longing for her presence, for the laughter and warmth that had once defined our lives. In the midst of this struggle, I received a call from Linda. She wanted to check in on me, to see how I was handling the transition. I was surprised by her concern, but as we talked, I realized that she too was feeling the weight of Sarah's absence. We shared stories of our love for her, our hopes for her future, and the challenges we both faced. Through those conversations, I found a renewed sense of connection with Linda. We began to bond over our shared experiences, and I realized that we were both navigating the same storm. I felt a sense of camaraderie with her, and it became clear that our relationship was evolving into something more supportive. As the months passed, I learned to embrace the distance. I focused on my own growth, pursuing hobbies and interests that I had neglected during our marriage. I found solace in painting, creating pieces that reflected my emotions and the journey I was on. I also made an effort to connect with Sarah regularly, scheduling video calls and planning visits whenever possible. But despite my efforts, the distance took its toll. I felt a growing disconnect as our lives began to diverge. Sarah was thriving in her new job, making new friends, and embracing the independence that came with her new life. I was proud of her, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being left behind. I missed our late-night talks, our shared meals, and the simple joy of being together. Then came the unexpected twist that would change everything once again. One day, I received a message from Sarah. She wanted to come home for a visit, and I could sense the excitement in her words. I felt a rush of anticipation, but also a wave of anxiety. Would our reunion be everything we hoped for, or would the distance have created a chasm that we couldn't bridge? When Sarah finally arrived, I was filled with a mix of joy and apprehension. As I embraced her, I felt the familiar warmth that I had missed so much. But as we sat down to talk, I could sense the tension in the air. We both had grown and changed during our time apart, and I wondered if we could reconnect on the same level we once had. Over the course of her visit, we shared our experiences, our struggles, and our triumphs. I could see the passion in her eyes as she spoke about her new job, and I felt a sense of pride for the woman she had become. But I also sensed the weight of unspoken words between us, the lingering doubts that had crept in during our time apart. As the visit came to a close, I found myself grappling with conflicting emotions. I loved Sarah deeply, but I also feared that we had grown too far apart. Would we be able to find our way back to each other, or had the distance created an insurmountable divide? In the final moments of her visit, I made a decision. I took a deep breath and opened my heart to her, expressing my fears and hopes for our future. I told her how much I missed her, how proud I was of her accomplishments, and how I wanted to support her dreams. I also shared my fears of losing her, of drifting apart as we pursued our individual paths. To my surprise, Sarah responded with vulnerability of her own. She admitted that she had been struggling too, feeling the weight of the distance and the uncertainty of our relationship. We talked late into the night, sharing our fears and desires, and in that moment, I felt a renewed sense of connection. As Sarah prepared to leave, I realized that our journey was far from over. We had faced challenges that had tested our love, but we had also grown stronger through adversity. I knew that the road ahead would be filled with ups and downs, but I felt a sense of hope for our future. But life had one more twist in store for us. A few weeks after Sarah returned to her new city, I received a call from her. She sounded distraught, and my heart sank as I listened to her voice. She had encountered a difficult situation at work, an unexpected conflict with her boss that left her feeling undervalued and frustrated. It was a stark reminder of the pressure she faced in her new role, and I could hear the strain in her voice. As she recounted the events, I felt a surge of empathy for her. I wanted to be there for her, to support her through this tough time, but I also felt the distance weighing heavily on me. I wished I could be there to hold her, to reassure her that everything would be okay. Instead, I found myself grappling with feelings of helplessness. In the weeks that followed, Sarah's situation at work continued to deteriorate. She confided in me about her struggles, and I listened intently, offering words of encouragement and support. But as she vented her frustrations, I couldn't help but feel a sense of helplessness. I wanted to fix things for her, to make the pain go away, but all I could do was listen. Then came the moment that would change everything once again. One night, during one of our late-night calls, Sarah broke down. She expressed her fears about her job, her feelings of inadequacy, and the weight of loneliness that came with being apart. In that moment, I felt the distance between us grow even wider, and I realized that I had to do something drastic. With a heavy heart, I made the decision to visit her. I wanted to be there for her in person, to show her that she wasn't alone in this struggle. I booked a flight and arrived in her city, my heart racing with anticipation. As I stepped off the plane, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Would this visit help bridge the gap that had formed between us? When I saw her waiting for me at the airport, I felt a rush of emotions. We embraced tightly, and for a moment, everything felt right in the world. But as we settled into her apartment, I could sense the tension lingering in the air. We were both excited to be together, but the unspoken challenges loomed large. Over the next few days, I made it my mission to support Sarah. We spent time exploring the city, trying new restaurants, and enjoying each other's company. But beneath the surface, the weight of her struggles hung heavily over us. I could see the toll that work was taking on her, and I felt a sense of urgency to help her find a solution. One evening, as we sat on her couch, I broached the subject of her job. I encouraged her to consider her options, to think about what truly made her happy. I could see the conflict in her eyes as she weighed the pros and cons of staying in a job that was draining her spirit. I wanted her to feel empowered to make a decision that was right for her, but I also feared that she would choose to leave everything behind. In the days that followed, Sarah and I had deep conversations about her future. We discussed her passions, her dreams, and the kind of life she envisioned for herself. I could see the spark in her eyes as she spoke about her love for art and design, and it became clear that her current job was stifling her creativity. Then came the moment of truth. One evening, as we sat together, Sarah made a bold decision. She announced that she was going to resign from her job. I felt a mix of relief and fear wash over me. I knew it was the right choice for her, but I also worried about the uncertainty that lay ahead. Would she be able to find something that fulfilled her? Would this decision impact our relationship? As she prepared to take the leap, I promised to support her every step of the way. I encouraged her to pursue her passion for art, to explore opportunities that aligned with her true self. It was a turning point for both of us, and I felt a renewed sense of hope for our future. But just when I thought we were on the right track, life threw another curveball our way. A few weeks after Sarah resigned, she received an unexpected job offer from a prestigious design firm. It was a dream opportunity, one that aligned perfectly with her passions. But there was a catch. This job required her to relocate once again, this time to a city even farther away. As Sarah shared the news with me, I felt a whirlwind of emotions. I was thrilled for her, but I also felt a pang of fear. Would this mean another long-distance relationship? Would we be able to navigate the complexities of our love while living apart once again? In the days that followed, we had long discussions about the implications of her decision. Sarah was excited about the opportunity, but she also felt the weight of uncertainty. We both knew that maintaining a long-distance relationship would require effort, communication, and commitment. But we also recognized that this was a chance for her to pursue her dreams, and I didn't want to hold her back. As she prepared to make the move, I found myself reflecting on our journey together. We had faced challenges that had tested our love, but we had also grown stronger through adversity. I realized that our relationship had evolved, and I had faith that we could navigate this new chapter together. When the day finally came for Sarah to leave, I felt a mix of sadness and pride. I watched as she packed her belongings, her excitement palpable. We shared one last embrace before she headed off to her new adventure, and I promised her that I would always be there to support her, no matter the distance. As I returned home, I felt a sense of emptiness wash over me. The silence of our home echoed in my ears, a stark reminder of the love that had once filled every corner. I missed Sarah more than I could express, but I also knew that this was an opportunity for us both to grow. In the months that followed, we navigated the challenges of a long-distance relationship. We scheduled regular video calls, planned visits whenever possible, and made an effort to stay connected. I focused on my own growth, pursuing hobbies and interests that I had neglected during our marriage. I found solace in painting, creating pieces that reflected my emotions and the journey I was on. But despite our efforts, the distance took its toll. I felt a growing disconnect as our lives began to diverge. Sarah was thriving in her new job, making new friends, and embracing the independence that came with her new life. I was proud of her, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being left behind. I missed our late-night talks, our shared meals, and the simple joy of being together. Then came the moment that would change everything once again. One day, I received a message from Sarah. She wanted to come home for a visit, and I could sense the excitement in her words. I felt a rush of anticipation, but also a wave of anxiety. Would our reunion be everything we hoped for, or would the distance have created a chasm that we couldn't bridge? When Sarah finally arrived, I was filled with a mix of joy and apprehension. As I embraced her, I felt the familiar warmth that I had missed so much. But as we sat down to talk, I could sense the tension in the air. We both had grown and changed during our time apart, and I wondered if we could reconnect on the same level we once had. Over the course of her visit, we shared our experiences, our struggles, and our triumphs. I could see the passion in her eyes as she spoke about her new job, and I felt a sense of pride for the woman she had become. However, I also sensed the weight of unspoken words between us, the lingering doubts that had crept in during our time apart. As the visit progressed, we embarked on a journey of rediscovery. We revisited our favorite spots in the city, reminiscing about the memories we had created together. Each moment was bittersweet, filled with joy but shadowed by the reality of our separation. I could see that Sarah was thriving in her new environment, but I couldn't help but feel a pang of longing for the connection we once had. One evening, as we sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, I decided it was time to confront the elephant in the room. I took a deep breath and shared my feelings with her, my fears of losing her, my insecurities about our relationship, and my desire to bridge the gap that distance had created. To my relief, Sarah opened up as well. She admitted that while she loved her new job and the independence it brought, she missed the intimacy we had shared. She expressed her fears about our future, wondering if we could maintain the same level of connection while living apart. It was a pivotal moment for both of us, a chance to lay our cards on the table and confront the challenges head-on. As we talked late into the night, I realized that our love had evolved. We were no longer the same couple who had walked down the aisle. We had both grown individually, and our relationship needed to adapt to this new reality. We had to learn to communicate openly about our needs and desires, acknowledging the challenges that distance had brought. In the final moments of her visit, I made a heartfelt promise to Sarah. I expressed my unwavering support for her dreams and aspirations, and my commitment to finding a way to make our relationship work, no matter the distance. It was a turning point, a reaffirmation of our love and determination to face whatever challenges lay ahead together. As Sarah prepared to leave once again, I felt a renewed sense of hope. We had faced trials that tested our bond, but through it all, we had learned the importance of communication, understanding, and mutual support. Our journey was far from over, and I was ready to embrace whatever came next, confident that our love could withstand the test of time and distance. In the months that followed, we continued to nurture our relationship, making a conscious effort to prioritize our connection. We scheduled regular visits, planned virtual date nights, and shared our daily lives through messages and video calls. Each interaction reinforced our bond, reminding us of the love that had brought us together in the first place. As time went on, Sarah's career flourished, and I found fulfillment in my own pursuits. We both grew as individuals, but our love remained a constant source of strength. We learned to navigate the complexities of life apart, finding joy in the moments we shared, no matter how brief. Eventually, after a year of long-distance challenges, Sarah and I sat down to discuss our future. We both knew that maintaining a long-distance relationship was not sustainable forever. With a mix of excitement and apprehension, we began to explore the possibility of merging our lives once again. Sarah had received another job offer, this time, one that would allow her to work remotely. It was an opportunity that would enable her to return home while still pursuing her career. As we discussed the logistics of her move, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. This was the moment we had both been waiting for, a chance to rebuild our life together. When Sarah finally moved back, it felt like a homecoming. The moment she walked through the door, I knew that we were ready to embrace this new chapter together. We took our time, rediscovering each other in the comfort of our shared space. The love we had fought for had only grown stronger, and I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the journey we had taken. As we settled into our new routine, I realized that our relationship had transformed. We were no longer just partners. We were teammates, navigating the complexities of life together. The challenges we had faced had only deepened our connection, and I felt a renewed sense of commitment to our love. In the years that followed, we built a life filled with laughter, adventure, and love. We learned to communicate openly, to support each other's dreams, and to cherish the moments we shared. Our journey had not been without its trials, but we had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more in love than ever. As I reflect on our story, I am reminded that love is not just a feeling. It is a choice, a commitment to face life's challenges together. Our love story is one of growth, understanding, and unwavering support. And as we continue to navigate the twists and turns of life, I am confident that our love will always guide us home.